Hey everybody, welcome back. So in today's video, I want to knock out the final part of the comparison between these two welders, the Vevor MIG 130 and the Simdar MIG 140. And in this part of the video, I'm going to do a little bit of output testing, but I did notice that my little B-side meter here, its maximum amperage it will read on the clamp is 100. So while I can't directly test the maximum output of these machines, I have noticed that the difference between what the machine front panel is saying and what the meter is saying is consistent across number of different amperage output. So I think we can extrapolate what the maximum output of them is. And to be honest, despite the fact that one says it's 130 amps and one says it's 140, I don't think there's really that much difference between them. So there's that. I've got a slightly new setup here to record welding. I broke the old one. I've 3D designed and 3D printed a sturdier one. I've got a maybe not a better lens in it, but at least it's smaller and lighter. It still is auto darkening, so I shouldn't have a problem with that. I'm going to be doing some of the recording on my phone. I got this really nice new phone holder tripod mount. I like this so much, I'll probably be doing a mini review on it here in a bit. If you guys are looking for one, this is a really good one. And I can't think of anything else I really wanted to say. Oh, I have done some upgrading on the house electrical. I had to put a new breaker in the outside box because it was popping all the time. And then it wouldn't let me reset it. So I put a new one in and that problem went away. Now, of course, I'm just popping the breaker that's built into this unit. So I'm having to plug the welders in all the way over here, and that solves that problem. And I can run these pretty consistently up to about 100 amps now without them popping. And you notice I cleaned this whole side of my little work area up. So pretty impressive, huh? And anyway, with all that being said, let's see if we can get some amperage output tests done. Since I can't go to their maximum outputs, my feeling about these machines and the readings I've watched, and I've done a lot more of it than just what you've seen on this video. I've probably done this same test 10 times with both machines. I get the distinct feeling that both of these machines running off 110 to 120 volts, you're looking at a maximum output of about 115 to 118 amps. I think that's probably about what they both are. They both weld good, so I'm not sure how much of what a big deal that is or how much of it would play into your purchasing decision. I don't know. Anyway, let's move on. Let's get some footage of the actual welding with the flux core, because I think that's why most of you are going to be buying these machines, not stick weld or anything else. So let's do that next. Just to make sure this is a fair comparison of the machines and we're not comparing wire, I'm going to be running the Lincoln Electric inner shield .030 wire in both machines. Let me show you something that over time has come to annoy me with the Simdar MIG 140, and that is this hole right here. This is now about the third time I have had to pull this cover off of this machine in order to retrieve one of these pieces from the spool, because I do it on its side because it's easier for me, and I wind up fumble fingering something and it drops down there. And it never seems to want to shake back out of there. It always gets trapped in the circuit board behind or under something, and I wind up having to take the cover off yet again. But hey, now that the cover's off, let's look inside of it. And so if you want to know what's inside the Simdar MIG 140, here it is. This is what's inside of it. So in comparison, here's the inside of the Vevor MIG 140. There's a cover over whatever circuit board would be exposed from the back, and there's no holes anywhere in it that I can drop something through and have it fall into the electronics. This is the Simdar MIG 140, 91 amps on this mild steel quarter wall square tube with the Lincoln inner shield wire. Okay, let's do one more. Okay, there we go. Let's brush that off a little bit and let's run one more. Okay, so here are the welds. The top two are the Simdar machine I did when the camera wasn't turned on. And remember, this is at 90 amps on 1/4 inch thick material with no seam or anything to go into, so they're going to appear humped up a bit. These are the two Simdar number 3 and number 4 are the two I did with the Simdar while the camera was running. And the bottom two are the two I did with the Vevor MIG 130 while the camera was running and you were watching. I'm in an awkward position, and again, I don't weld real straight when there's no seam or line or anything to go by. So those are my excuses, and they're really all I got right now, so I'm sticking with them. So let me gather my thoughts and maybe some notes up, and we'll sit down and we'll think, is there a clear winner or loser in this? Anyway, be right back. Okay, so now for the hard part. Which one do you buy? Is there a winner? Is there a loser? I have a little sheet here. I'm going to try and be as objective about this as possible, but sometimes you can and sometimes you can't. So let's cover the elephants in the room. This one can TIG weld and comes with a TIG welding torch. This one can't TIG weld. Doesn't come with a TIG welding torch because it can't TIG weld. This one can run on 220 and it comes with the adapter to do so. This one cannot run on 220, and of course it doesn't come with an adapter since it can't. So if you have to have one that runs on 220 or you want the TIG welding capability, don't listen any further. Your decision is made, because those are the elephants in the room, one for the other. Assuming that you don't particularly want to TIG weld and you don't particularly want to run it off 220, then we can go on and we can compare them a little bit more. I've got a list of things here, and objective, some are objective, some are subjective. You know, I got so intangible down here, which one annoyed me the most or the least. But I'm going to go down here and I'm going to try and rate these 1 through, let's rate them 1 through 5. And that'll make the addition at the end a little easier. And let's see if we can't come up with some intelligent way to pick a winner. Packaging. Which one is packaged better than the other? Will one arrive safely and one likely to arrive damaged? They both were packaged very well and extremely similarly. So I'm going to give them both a 4 for packaging. Now, documentation. This is a tough one. The Vevor came with no useful documentation whatsoever. It came with a little instruction booklet. It wasn't even for the correct machine. It was 100% worthless. There is no documentation on the machine anywhere either as to how you should set it, what you should do. There is zero, there is nothing. I would not normally give anything a 0 or a 5, but I think that the Vevor earned a 0 for documentation. In fact, it earned a 0 with a line through it, because that's a double 0. The Simdar, on the other hand, came with a tiny little booklet. At least it was for the correct machine. At least it gave you some idea of initial settings on the machine, what to do if it wouldn't turn on, how to thread the wire through. It even has the, I don't know if you can see it there, but underneath the lid there's the instructions on how to feed the wire through. None of it's amazing. None of it's wonderful. It's all very, very, very basic. But nonetheless, it's there and it's for the right machine. I'm going to give it a 2 for documentation. Out of the box experience. OOB experience. Now, this is, let's say you're fairly new to welding and you buy one of these or the other. How likely are you to get it working? How likely are you to come up with everything? How likely is it to have everything it needs in the box? How good are you going to feel in that first hour of taking it out and trying it? The Vevor comes with no documentation whatsoever. However, it comes with a pair of welding glasses, which I highly recommend you do not use for very long, but nonetheless they're in there and they are useful for tacking and things like that. And it comes with a chipping hammer and a wire brush system. The Simdar comes with a better documentation, but it doesn't come with any brush, any hammer, or any glasses. You're going to be going to the store and buying something, you know, maybe you already bought it, maybe you knew it wasn't going to come with that. So out of the box experience, honestly, I'm going to give them both a 3. I think the documentation makes up for the lack of, the basic documentation makes up for the lack of glasses and chipping hammer. So I'm going to give them both, what did I say, 3? I'm going to give them both a 3. Accessories, what do they come with? Well, I've got to exclude the TIG torch with this one and the 220 adapter with this one because we already covered that. So, accessories. They both come with extra tips. They both come with, you know, the stick welding stinger and cable and ground cables. You know, they both come with, you know, the minor little consumables that will get you through your first welding experience. So I'm going to give this one a point more because it has the glasses and the hammer, and I know I kind of covered that in out-of-box experience, but hey, you know what? Here's another thing for it. So accessories, I'm going to give a 3 to the Vevor and a 2 to the Simdar. Size and weight and portability. Pretty obviously, which one wins there? The Vevor is small, or excuse me, the Simdar is smaller and it's lighter. Is it hugely smaller? I mean, is it really going to affect you that much? They're both tiny. I mean, they're both tiny. This one's just tinier. I'm gonna reverse this. I'm gonna give, for size and portability, I'm gonna give the Simdar a 4 because I don't give anything a 5. 4, and I'm gonna give the Vevor a 3. Now, features. They both have almost an identical set of features. Not counting the 220 and not counting the TIG, they both will stick weld, they both will flux core weld, they both have settings for 0.8 and 1.0 wire, and they both have the synergic MIG. Even though it's not advertised on this one, it does have it. This one claims it will do 10 more amps than this one. I'm not 100% sure of that. I think they're both running on 110. I think they're both going to be 115 to 118 amps. Honestly, discounting the TIG and the 220, I've got to give them a tie on features. I'm going to give them both a 4 on features because they do both have good features. I'm not really doubting that. Now, here's something that I add in because I like it, and that is intelligent design. The hole in the inside of this that leads from where the wire goes into where all the electronics are that you can drop nuts and bolts and chunks of wire and that kind of crap into, that's not an intelligent design. That is a stupid design. It's an incredibly stupid design. The Vevor has that same hole, but they've capped it. Having the circuit board extend into that area without a cover is another stupid design. It's hard for me to get around that. I think it's just a result of trying to make it as tiny as possible. And of course, trying to keep the price really low. So I just think the Vevor, now the handle flips on this, which makes it even more portable. I question how strong, I forgot to tighten it after taking the lid off the last time, didn't I? I question how strong that handle's going to be compared to this one. At least it does screw down to the metal body underneath and not just into the sheet metal. There is a frame underneath that screws to. While I like the folding handle, I think I like overall this one better if you're not worried about portability. For intelligent design, I'm going to give the Vevor a 4 and I'm going to give the Simdar a 3. That hole in there is just, I don't know. I've covered it. I'm not going to continue going over it. The next thing is controls. The controls on them both are nearly identical. They have a single soft touch type button that switches between them and lights to tell you what you're on. The Simdar has that little bit of a problem with finding it fiddly. Say if you want it set exactly to 100, you have to fiddle with it for a while. It'll go to 98, it'll go to 101, then it'll go to 99, then it'll go to 103. Then you dial it all the way down and come back up and you'll probably get it to 100. Are you really worried about that? I don't think so, but I don't think it should do it. I think you should be able to get the exact number you want without fighting it. That's going to trigger somebody's OCD. I'm not that OCD. 100 and 102 and 98 are pretty much the same thing to me. So I'm not that too concerned about it, but nonetheless, it is there and it shouldn't do it. So once again, I'm going to take a point off of that. I'm going to give the Vevor a 4 for control and the Simdar 3 on controls. Flux core welding, which one welded the best? I honestly couldn't tell any difference. I really couldn't. At times I thought the Simdar was a little smoother, and then on the next time I'd weld it, it seemed like the Vevor was a little smoother. So I'm not really sure I think there's any difference in the way they welded. And I thought they both welded pretty decently. I didn't really have a problem with either of them welding. So I'm going to give them both a 4 for welding, for flux core welding. For stick welding, I think the Simdar was easier to strike an arc with, and I think it was easier to hold a short arc length without it going out. I don't know exactly what was going on with this. At first I was blaming it on myself, but the higher the amperage got, the harder I found it was to maintain a stable arc with this one. This might just be a fluke of my machine. It may just be I got a weak electronic component in it, but nonetheless, there it is. Are you going to stick weld with these? I'm going to do as absolute little stick welding with these as possible, so I'm not that worried about it, but nonetheless, it's there. It might not be there in every example, but these are the only 2 examples I have. So I'm going to give the Simdar a 4 for stick welding, and I'm going to give the Vevor a 3 for stick welding. Value for money. That's a tough one, isn't it? I really, really like the long MIG cabling on the Simdar, but it's hard to deny that the Vevor can TIG weld, and it comes with what's probably a $50 TIG torch. Hard to deny that. I like the I like the design a little bit better. I like the controls better. I like the bright readout on the Simdar, but also this has this kind of little plastic hood that sticks out the front that kind of shades it from the sun, kind of protects the knobs if it falls forward. You know what? That's really tough. That's really tough to me. This one can do the 220. I mean, the value for money is going to be different, I think, depending on which features you like the most. I have a tough time calling this one. I'm going to call this one 4 for each. I may regret that. Maybe I should have given that 1 more for TIG. I don't know. But I'm trying to take the TIG out of it. Let me stop, add all this up, and I will come right back. So I added all of our numbers up, and not shockingly enough, I found it to be very close. The Simdar beat out the Vevor by 1 point, 36 to 37. But I want to add this intangible down here. Which one annoyed me the most or the least? And on a scale of 1 to 5, which is of 1 being annoyed me the least and 5 having annoyed me the most? The short MIG gun on the Vevor annoyed me. When I was out working on my Jeep, I kept having to bring the whole machine up and set it on the fender, set it on top of the air cleaner, whatever, in order to get the gun close enough to weld what I wanted to weld. That wasn't hugely annoying. The thing doesn't weigh hardly anything, and it's not very big, so it wasn't like I was setting an old Lincoln Tombstone machine on top of the air cleaner of my Jeep and crushing it. It wasn't that big of a deal, but it annoyed me. So, the Simdar, I think we already know where I'm going with it. Oh, the lack of documentation annoyed me on this one as well. So, the Simdar, I think we know where I'm going there. The hole in the side that I kept dropping things into and then having to take the cover off to retrieve them was probably my biggest annoyance of either of these machines. I love the long MIG cable, the gun cable. That's great. That meant I could have left the machine sitting on a sawhorse next to the Jeep and I could have gotten anywhere I wanted. That would have been big. I like that. I mean, that would have been good. The really tiny area in here to put the wire in, yeah, you know what? I think they just went to too many lengths to make this as small as possible. The control that I couldn't get set exactly the way I wanted it was kind of a minor irritant. You know, it's just, you know what? As tough as this is for me to do, on most annoyance, on what annoyed me the most, it was this one. And I'm going to give this a 3 on the annoyance level, and I'm going to give the Vevor a 2 on the annoyance level. And I'm not doing that so they come out even. I'm really not. It's just, it's just kind of how I felt. Using this one, I found myself more often annoyed than this one. Oh, and this one also came with the wrong feed roller, which kind of sort of slightly annoyed me. I think it was probably a mistake at the factory. I don't think it was intentional. Yours will probably come with the correct one, but instead of getting 0.8 and 1.0 feed roller, I got 0.6 and 0.8. 1.0 wire ran fine with the 0.8 feed roller. I did try it. So when we finally tally this up, I did that the wrong way, didn't I? I did that the wrong way. I should have done this the other way around. Let's redo that, because that's not gonna be right, is it? So which one annoyed me the most or least? Annoyed me the most is going to be a 1. Annoyed me the least is going to be a 5. So we're going to go 3 and we're going to go 2. That makes it right. Sorry about that. So that brings us to 39 and 39. What are my final thoughts on this? Well, other than I'm glad it's done, because I bet I have 100 video clips to go edit. I don't think if all you want to do is flux core, wire, and stick weld occasionally on 110, 120 volts, I think you'd be equally happy with either of them. I don't really see that there's any significant difference in that regard. If your main thing is small, get this one. If your main thing is a slightly sturdier, slightly better thought out design, and you're willing to deal with the extra size, get the Vevor. Of course, if you want a TIG, get the Vevor. If you want 220, get the Simdar. I don't know. That's where I'm at. That's what I'm saying. I don't know what else to say about them. I like both of them. Yeah, that's it. Thanks for watching, guys. I will catch you in the next one. I'm getting in out of the hot garage. And thanks for watching.